Joining me on this first half to discuss how Africa can preserve its monuments and sites is Tamuno Kuro EU, a Pan-Africanist, cultural ambassador and the founder of Afrisankofa 36. He joins us from Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Tamuno, for joining me on One Slot.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first of all, let's look at the importance of what we call this heritage sites, this monuments that we see all over the world that we celebrate today, especially in Africa. What exactly are its importance to humanity?
You see, they are so important because I refer to them as our living memory. But before I start, I would like to read something. I'd like to read something that someone wrote concerning monuments and artifacts as it involves us as African people. And this is talking about the importance of preserving our monuments, the importance of preserving our artifacts. Someone wrote that much of the inhabitants of Africa south of the Sahara experience a mostly underorganized but overwhelming mental displacement, an overwhelming sense of mental displacement. The existence
Tamuno, are you with us? Okay, so Tamuno was there giving us a brief importance of this heritage site, and he was actually trying to at least a quote about why this heritage site and monuments are so important. And from the earlier disposition, we're looking at the importance of this heritage monuments and sites. I don't know if we have Tamuno with us, but we'll take a quick break and be right back with more discussions on the importance of all of this. Okay, Tamuno, are you with me?
Yes, I am with you, yes.
All right, so go on, please.
Yeah, so, like I was saying, I want to read something real quick that someone wrote. The author said that much of the inhabitants of Africa south of the Sahara experience a mostly underorganized but overwhelming sense of mental displacement. The existing state of diminished self-awareness among Africans can be traced to historical antecedents such as the unchecked looting of the continent artifacts during the colonial era. Africa's living memory and chronology of achievements live scattered in numerous museums and private collections in Europe and North America. Now, George Clooney in his 2014 movie, The Monument Man, said something remarkable. He said that that you can destroy a people, you can burn their houses to the ground, you can fight them, colonize them, but they will still rise up. But the moment you destroy the heritage, the moment you destroy that history, the moment you destroy the artifacts that helps them to remember who they are and where they are coming from, then you would take away every sense of their existence. It will be as if they've never existed. So our artifacts and monuments are so important because they help show us the trajectory of our journey. They show us who we are, what we've accomplished, how we got to the point that we currently are. Because remember that these artworks and artifacts and monuments, they were not just built for fancy. Back in the day, there were no video cameras, there were no recorders. So the artifacts were used to store information. They were used to store events that happened. So when you take away these artifacts from the people, then it's as if they never existed, because the achievement of the ancestors, the historical informations that are stored in these monuments, that are stored in these artifacts, are taken away from the people. So what you have is a society that is literally floating, a society with no foundation. So the importance of preserving our monuments and artifacts as a people cannot be overemphasized.
All right, now, Tamino, you took us back to the mention of ancestors, and when you talk about the African culture or tradition, we know that pre the colonial era, there was so much worship about these are our ancestors, and this created the heritage that we have today that makes we Africans. Now, but during that era, we had a situation where it was also tied to religion, where religious leaders were more of making this place a sanctity for a lot of individuals, especially community leaders. From pre-colonial era to what we have now as colonization, how do you think colonization has affected what we have today as our Africa heritage?
Oh, colonization has done a whole lot of damage. Many Africans, because of colonization, do not even know how great Africa was. They do not know the contribution of Africa towards world civilization. Let me just give you an example. In Kenya, close to Lake Turkana, there is there's these pillars known as the Namaratunga pillars. Namaratunga pillars are there. If you go to Lake Turkana, you still find them. They were used to create the 354 days lunar calendar, the 354 days lunar calendar. And what is most interesting about the Namaratunga pillars is that they are also connected to different star systems like Bellatrix, Sirius, Central Orion, Aldebaran. Now, these are our ancestors, civilized, advanced in science. They were able to even understand the different star systems, and they came up with the 365 days, calendar, 354 days calendar, as is enumerated by the Namaratunga pillars. And even in Tanzania, we have, for instance, the ancient city of Kelwa. A very advanced civilization. They had stone dressed buildings. And this was back in the 13th century. The city of Kelwa had pipe-borne waters around the city. So when we talk about pipe-borne waters today, in the 13th century, Africans were already, I'm talking about Kelwa in Tanzania. Yeah. Africans were already building houses where they channeled water from a water source into their houses across the city of Kelwa. UNESCO referred to Kelwa as one of the most endangered places of interest, one of the endangered historical places of interest, and then
Simon, are you still with me? All right, we still will try to get Tamino back, but just before he went off, we're looking at the importance of this Heritage Day that we are celebrating today, and this monument, this Africa Heritage and Monument site. Tamino, thank God you're back with us. Now, you're looking at the effect of colonization. You're mentioning so much of how before colonization, this heritage site that we had in Africa.
Yes, so Kelwa, for instance, was so advanced. They had pipe-borne waters across the city. They had pipe-borne waters in houses. That today it is one of the endangered World Heritage sites. And the good thing is that the World Monument Fund, has also included Kelwa, the city of Kelwa, as one of the 100 places that they really need to preserve. So that's a good thing. But the point is that we had a very rich history. If we come to Nigeria, for instance, the Benin civilization was so powerful. The walls of Benin, the walls of Benin was actually the largest single man-made structure in the history of humanity. It was 4 times longer than the wall of China. But if you go to Benin today, you'll be shocked that there are several people in Benin, Edo State, Nigeria, that do not even know that their ancestors built the single largest man-made structure in the history of the world, 4 times longer than the wall of China, consumed 100 times more materials than the pyramid of Giza. In 1897, the British, when they invaded Benin and looted over 4,000 artifacts, they spent the next couple of years just destroying the walls of Benin. They were putting explosive on it, bombing it, bringing it down. Why? Because they were trying to erase from the memory of the future generations how great their ancestors were. Because the only way to colonize the people is to erase their past. That's the only way you can colonize them. So when you erase their past, you then superimpose whatever narrative that best suits you. And this is the reason why Dr. Jeffrey Lennings talked about the VIPs. The VIPs, that is the values, interests, and principles. And if you're able to take away the values, interests, and principles of a people, and then you superimpose your own values, interests, and principles on them, then what happens is that no matter the decisions they reach, in their quest for advancement, they will always make decisions that will put you, that have placed your values, interests, and principles on them. They will always put you ahead of them.
Okay, so, but Tamuno, it's been so many years back. Sorry to cut you there. It's been so many years back. Why are we still battling with it today? I mean, this is more like the 21st century. Colonization happened years ago. How come we're still battling with this thing today?
Because it's the mind. It's the mind. We are yet to be liberated. That's the reason I keep saying that what we need as Africans urgently is not infrastructural development. Infrastructure is good. We need hospitals, we need roads, we need electricity. These things are good. But what we urgently need is mental liberation. That is why Bob Marley said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but yourselves.
Tamuno. All right, once again, we do hope that we will get Tamuno back with us, but he talked about the emancipation of mental slavery. Go on, please, Tamuno.
Yes, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and none but yourself can free your minds. So when you look at the educational system in Africa, the curriculums are still colonial, and as far as we keep using colonial structures of education, you would have graduates that will have a mindset that is un-African. It's like you go to school and then your Africanness is educated out of you. So you are educated, you are quote unquote civilized, but the decisions you make are decisions that undermines at the subconscious level, that undermines our growth. And so if you look at our politicians, for instance, our politicians, because our government structure is still based on the colonial government structures. So our politicians, for instance, they treat our society, they treat our people the same way the colonialists treated our people. They take resources from here to the West. All of Africa's monies are in Western banks. We're talking about, do you know how much our politicians steal? Because they still have that mindset, In universities, every major invention they will tell you was, they tell you about, who was the father of medicine. They talk about Hippocrates as the father of medicine. They say, the father of philosophy. They say Thales of Miletus is the father of philosophy. But that is not true, because Hippocrates himself was educated here in Africa. As a matter of fact, Hippocrates did not even finish school. Before Hippocrates, we had Imhotep. Imhotep, the Greeks will change his name from Imhotep to Esculapius. He was the father of medicine. The Greeks were worshiping the African called Imhotep as their god of medicine, who they also call Esculapius. And Imhotep was who designed the pyramid of Saqqara. He was a founder of the first school of medicine, And then you have Aristotle, Socrates, Thales, Anaxagoras. All these people started at the feet of Africans, but we don't tell our history. We don't enlighten our people of the greatness of Africa. We don't even tell our people that the first university in Europe, called the University of Salamanca, was built by Africans when Africans ruled Europe for over 700 years. I'm talking about the Moors. The Moors ruled Spain, Portugal, and Western Europe for over 700 years. This is our history. Are we going to talk about the richest man that ever walked on the surface of the earth, Mansa Musa, the Malian, the emperor of Mali? Are we going to talk about the University of Timbuktu? One of the oldest universities in Africa, and what about the University of Ouagadougou in ancient Ghana? So there is so much of our history that we must begin to bring out, because if we don't know where we are coming from, the ones who have erased our past will shape the narrative, and we will always be subservient to them because our minds have been captured. So our vision, our perception of reality will simply be based on what they want. It is the reason why it is this is an existential issue. The issue of preserving our monuments, the issue of preserving our artifacts, it is an existential issue, because once they are preserved, what happens is that I can tell my children and my grandchildren that there was the ancient wall of Kanu, that our ancestors were civilized enough, they built walls and they dug ridges, that add, some sort of irrigation system, add water, huge ditches that add water, and then they had also the walls to prevent invaders from coming in.
Okay, now, Tomono,
and then you have, for instance...
Tomono, you're looking at this existential threat that you're talking of that has affected Africa's heritage, and one of the things that you've highlighted is political will. I don't know if you could also talk about industrialization, because that's the age that we're in, and when we talk about preserving Africa's heritage, we also have the sites. You talked about lots of places in Nigeria and even in other places in Africa where industrialization has affected these Africa heritage sites or monuments. How do we begin to get past all of this? Because it's fast eroding the Africa heritage that we have.
Right, and again, that's the reason why you need people who are historically informed, people who understand the importance of these issues. I will plead with African leaders to, I plead with our different houses of assemblies, our lawmakers, to come up with bills that will preserve, bills that will make sure that industrialization do not affect, these sites, these monument sites, these sites that contains aspects of our history. There must be a political will. We must set up laws. We must set up laws to prohibit the excavation of ancient burial sites. We see Europeans come to Africa every day to dig up the bodies of our ancient kings and queens, but they don't do that in Europe. Akhenaten, Tutmosis, and all the ancient black ancient leaders of Kemet. Kemet, by the way, is Egypt. Our ancient civilization in Azania is South Africa, and also in West Central Africa, they keep digging up the bodies of our ancient kings and they take them to put in their museums in Europe. Sometimes due to quote unquote industrialization, they even bring down ancient sites. So there must be political will on the part of our leaders, to ensure that laws are set up to preserve, these aspects, these things that helps us to recollect our memory, that helps us to, make us remember who we are. Because if we destroy this, like I said, it's an existential issue. If we destroy our heritage sites, monuments, artifacts, we are done for. Because what are we going to use to say that we did that? What will be the pointers to show, for instance, that our ancestors contributed anything meaningfully to the fund of human civilization? Okay. And I don't mean to talk down Europeans, but In ancient Europe, you have what is called the huge garbage sites that are called the kitchen middens. While Africans were building the pyramids and building the largest walls in human history, and were building universities like University of Timbuktu, the University of Ancient Ouagadougou. At that same time, the most Europeans were doing were what they call the kitchen middens. That is the huge garbage centers. That was the best they were doing. But guess what? They also today, if you travel across Europe, you will see the kitchen middens. Why? Because it's to remind themselves of where they are coming from. That while the Africans were building civilizations, while the ancient Zimbabwe, the stone city of Zimbabwe was being built, our ancestors were uncivilized at that point, because the Africans were here to teach us. Now, I'm going to say this. Africans were the first to teach Europeans how to read and how to write. The Odyssey, the Odyssey was the first book in Europe written by Homer. Homer was educated by Africans. He schooled in Ethiopia. Then he went back, and of course, he wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. So the Odyssey was actually the first book written in Europe. Now, I once said this to someone, yeah. And it was like, oh, how can we say that Homer was educated by Africans? But I said, well, it's just like saying that how can we say that Bishop Ajayi Crowther was educated by the British? Because we all know Ajayi Crowther was educated by the British, but he would end up writing the Bible in Yoruba. Now, as a result of the education Homer received in Africa, he was able to write the Iliad and the Odyssey in Greek. Now, these were the first books. After the Iliad and the Odyssey was written 2,000 years later, the likes of Thales, the likes of Aristotle, the likes of Protagoras, they came and received their education. Thales would go back after studying for 13 years, because Thales was in school for 13 years. Because back in the day, it took 40 years to be a graduate in the universities of Africa. So Thales spent only 13 years in school. He went back, then he began the first Greek school of philosophy. But it's really insulting when they say that he is the founder of philosophy when he did not even receive full education. So if he's the founder of philosophy, then what about Orunmila? If you look at the works of Orunmila, one of our Yoruba ancestors, if you look at the works of Orunmila and then compare that to the works of Thales, it's a mismatch. You could see the thinking of Orunmila. These were far advanced philosophers, who gave civilization to humanity. It's important that we know who we are, because we don't know who we are. It's really, really important that Africans understand that they civilized humanity. It was, our fall actually began in 1619.
Tamara, if I allow you to go on, you're going to reveal so many facts, and I actually like what you're doing there, because you're saying so many things that have been eroded by whether European scholars or the colonialists. But it's good that you've mentioned all of this, and I really wish we had lots of time, but we still have another segment where we'll also discuss much about how to preserve this historical sites in Africa. But thank you so much for joining us on One Slot and sharing so much insight on how to preserve Africa's heritage and sites.
Thank you so much. We must make laws to preserve our monuments, artifacts, and historical sites. We must make laws. Thank you.